Welcome to today's presentation, The Ultimate Guide for Apple Management. My name's Nick Thompson, and I'll be your host today. Let's take a look at our agenda. So first off, we're going to do a brief overview of Jamf, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Then we'll talk about how to deploy and provision Apple devices. We'll then discuss how to do configuration management options, how to deliver software, some security considerations specifically for Apple devices, and discuss new ways to empower your end user. And we'll wrap it all up with some next steps and Q&A. So, brief overview here of Jamf. For those who aren't familiar with us, this is our mission. We help organizations succeed with Apple. So we're kind of unique in the fact that we only focus on the Apple platform. And we do that with our two products called Jamf Now and Jamf Pro. Jamf Now is really simple mobile device management, no IT required, versus Pro is really designed for IT professionals. And you can see them sort of stack ranked here against each other. Jamf Now, great for simple device management, easy setup, really ideal for small teams that are looking to just get up and running for management. Versus Pro, great for larger deployments that need to go through the entire lifecycle management process for Apple devices. Here are the screenshots of the two products. You access everything all just through a web browser, so you can access all of your management controls there. And a little bit about who we help. We help over 12,000 organizations to manage over 8 million Apple devices. You see us in the traditional Apple markets, such as technology companies and marketing, but also in some of the top brands out there and the Fortune 500 companies. And something that we are very, very proud of is the number of schools that we support as well, too. And we've been doing this for a while. And here's a great little history chart of the support that we've come out with for the different operating systems that Apple's been putting out. So most recently, we supported High Sierra and iOS 11 right before that they were even announced, or before they were available from Apple. So enough about us. Let's talk about managing Apple devices. And to key up this conversation, I want to frame this in a problem that we see a lot of organizations have, and that they try to answer this question here. And that question is, how do you deal with multiple platforms out there? So we have iOS devices, we've got PCs, we've got Surface Books, we've got Macs. How do we go about managing all these devices together here? And some traditional thinking has kind of said, well, let's organize them by what they are. Are they a desktop? Are they a tablet? Are they a phone? Or are they like a display device, like these Apple TVs or these Chrome boxes? What do you do with them? And here at Jamf, we're a little biased, and we think that, of course, a lot of people choose us to manage their Macs and also manage their Apple TVs here, and you generate management profiles for that. And then when you look at Microsoft devices, they work really excellent with Intune, their native management tool. And you can use some of Google's tools to manage some of their Google products, like their Chromebooks and Chromeboxes. But a lot of people are confused about sort of what to do in the middle here. These are, mobile devices, but they're really not on the same platform here. And so a lot of people end up doing something like this, where they create a fourth sort of management tool, and it's a mobile EMM. And it has its own separate management profiles in there too. And the question always arises, well, what about putting everything all into just one universal tool? And the way that we sort of see this here at Jamf is that there's not a lot common on management tasks across the different platforms. So when you look at provisioning, you don't provision a Mac the same way you do a PC or a Chromebook. You don't encrypt a Mac or iOS device the same way you encrypt a Windows device or a Google device. You don't do management the same way. You don't do settings the same way. You don't do software licensing the same way. Instead, what you end up seeing is a verticalization of these. You see commonalities in the Apple ecosystem. You see commonalities in the Microsoft ecosystem. You see commonalities in the Google ecosystem. And so this is where sort of Jamf is coming from here, where we are encouraging our customers and prospective clients to verticalize their approach here and to have all of your Apple devices under Jamf and to have your Microsoft devices under Intune and to use a tool to manage your Google devices. And instead, build on horizontally integrations that work great for inventory collection, for identity services, for directory services, and for network control as well too. So this is sort of our view here at Jamf of how we view where our product fits in is being a best-of-breed tool for Apple, and to have fully managed platforms arranged by ecosystems with these purpose-built tools that have integrations for enterprise systems. So, what is our product capable of doing? And that's why I want to move on to our next topic here. And to fully go through this, I want to frame this up through something that we call the Apple Management Lifecycle. And this can be applied to managing PCs as well too. It's a very common lifecycle problem. You start off with how do you deploy devices out to your end users? How do you get them provisioned? Then how do you manage the configurations that are on those devices? How do you appropriately update them as well too? How do you get the correct apps out there? How do you gather inventory data and take action on that inventory, secure them, and provide your users a unique way to get things that they need? So we'll walk through these steps with Jamf Pro here. On the right, you see an image of a Mac, and this is actually how we deploy Macs to our new employees here at Jamf. We hand them a box, and there's just 3 steps on there, right? Open it up, power it on, and there is no step 3. So we're going to walk through this and what it looks like from the end user's perspective. So here we are booting up our Mac for the first time. And I get brought into my normal welcome assistant here. I simply choose my country, select my keyboard type, join a Wi-Fi network, and then I get this new screen here. And this screen says Remote Management. Remote Management enables the administrator of, and then you can insert your company name there to set up all these different things. And if the user wants to learn more about remote management, they can just click on that link and they get some great detailed information about what's actually happening to their Mac. And this is all language that Apple writes here, minus the, of course, wildcard character of your organization's name. So they are fully transparent and very aware of what's being managed on their device. From there, when I move forward, I can now even provide my users the ability to log in at this point. So I'm going to require that my users log in using their LDAP credentials just to keep enrollment secure. After that, they skip a whole bunch of steps and they're brought right to creating their computer account here. Just peeking behind the curtain here, you can control this as an IT administrator. You can control what sort of account is created. Is this going to be a full admin account, or would you like this to just be a standard account? You have complete control on that here. So then the user is brought to their Mac, they see their desktop screen, and they get a little notification that comes in. And if we zoom in on this notification, we can uncover what's happening here. So it says, installing some software and security settings, check out self-service for more resources, Heart IT. Well, there's a lot of things that just took place in the background. First and foremost, we wirelessly provisioned this using Jamf via the Device Enrollment Program, or DEP. We then installed some software in the background using a technology called the Volume Purchase Program, or VPP. And we applied some security settings using MDM, or Mobile Device Management. These 3 acronyms are going to be very important for understanding the basis of managing Apple devices. And we'll be covering these 3 in more depth here. But it also says something else. It says, check out self-service for more resources. So what is self-service? If I zoom back out on my Mac here and open it up, I get this great app catalog that I, as the end user, can just browse different things that have already been approved by IT. So we see here a bunch of different apps, email settings, printer drivers, all things that I, as the end user, can just click to install right away. Very, very simple and easy. If I open up System Preferences, I can also see that all these management profiles have been pushed down here as well too. So let's unpack this. Let's see, let's understand really what happened. So first off, we used Apple's device enrollment program to provision that Mac. This is really the zero-touch deployment method. And all we have to do is simply order devices from Apple or from a reseller that supports DEP, and those Macs are flagged during enrollment to have it be automatically enrolled. That was that remote management screen that we saw earlier. What's really cool about this program too, it's free to sign up for, and you can go back and link purchases all the way dating back to March of 2011. So if you haven't signed up for this program yet, do. It's a really great thing to take advantage of just for the enrollment portion of this. Now, we do offer other enrollment methods if you don't support DEP, if your country doesn't support it, or if you just haven't signed up for it, or if you want to re-provision old machines or machines that are already out there in the field. So we do support some legacy imaging workflows, and we do have user-based enrollments too, where users can simply navigate to a URL and then they download an installer to enroll their device. So that's deployment and provisioning. So we're able to zero touch, hand out a Mac, and have it be automatically configured. How do we configure them? Well, we do so with these device configurations, and that is Mobile Device Management, or MDM. MDM is really a built-in management framework into all of Apple's operating systems. So it's built into iOS, macOS, and tvOS. And it lets us define the various settings that are available in there. These profiles are all delivered over the air via Apple's push notification service. That's the service that actually maintains a constant connection to your devices, so you don't have to. These little XML profiles can be built right inside of Jamf. So what can you build? Well, we've got there's a couple of different options out there, and I sort of grouped them by different categories here. So some of the basic things that you can do, of course, is enforce a passcode, lay down some restrictions, configure Wi-Fi settings, configure VPN settings. You can automatically set up accounts for your users if you're using mail or Exchange. You can lay down some security settings, such as deploying certificates, turning on File Vault, modifying gatekeeper settings. And you can do some advanced things too, such as modifying the dock or how Finder behaves. And what's great is these profiles work across the entire Apple ecosystem. So they'll work not only on Mac, but they'll also work on iPad and iPhone and even on Apple TV. This is where you start to get some of those streamlined efficiencies by having all of your Apple devices under one management tool. Now, MDM is pretty darn good for the Mac, but most organizations need a little bit more. You need to do some advanced things on the Mac sometimes, such as modifying accounts or deploying custom scripts. And that's why we started Jamf long ago with our agent. This agent, or binary, is automatically installed after enrolling your device. And that enrollment can happen, again, either over DEP or through other enrollment methods. Once the binary is installed on there, it actually adds a hidden admin account for you. And of course, you get to control what the admin's username is and what that admin's password is. You can even have that password rotate automatically and change. The reason why you want to do this is because it gives you remote root access to the Mac. That means you can do some really advanced things, such as executing policies, scripts, running software updates, and a lot more. Here's what the Jamf agent is really capable of doing. So you can install your own package files, DMG files. You can run scripts. Anything that can be put into terminal can be a script. Install printer drivers, enforce file vault encryption, modify your local user account. So maybe you want to grant admin rights, or you could remove admin rights. You can bind your Macs to the directory, set the firmware password, define how the software update schedule goes. So really, when you think about the MDM plus the agent, you get complete management control using Jamf here. Then moving on to apps. Of course, apps are great for our end users. We want them to be productive and to have all the correct tools and resources that they need. So we integrate with Apple's Volume Purchase Program. And the Volume Purchase Program, or VPP, lets us license Mac and iOS apps from the app stores. We can then choose to distribute these licenses directly to individuals or to the device. And if we deploy them directly to the device, that means we don't have to worry about Apple IDs at all. It's Apple ID independent if we are deploying apps directly to the device. It makes it very, very easy. And just like the device enrollment program, it's a free program that you can sign up for. Simply enroll your organization into these, and then you can go ahead and purchase licenses for apps in bulk. So what does this look like then to deploy some apps? Well, let me show you an example here first on an iPad. In this particular case, we want to use this in a little more of a secured, controlled environment. So we've actually disabled the App Store altogether on this iPad. And instead, we're going to have users get apps inside of self-service. Self-service, again, very much like that Mac self-service that I showed you earlier here, but this is now running on an iPad. User simply selects the approved app that we have in self-service, and when they tap install, that particular app is installed. No need for an Apple ID whatsoever. Similar process can be done on the Mac as well, too. Now, on the Mac side of things, there's a lot of apps that are not in the App Store, such as Microsoft Office, Adobe Creative Suite, and a lot more. That's why we also support the ability to do custom software installation. So that means you can take snapshots of software. So you use our tool called Composer to create a before and after snapshot that will then build a custom PKG or DMG file for you. You can take that PKG or DMG file, upload it to Jamf, and push it out directly to all of your end users. Very, very simple process for you to deploy custom software. Again, Composer is included in Jamf Pro. Then we, of course, want to do stuff with the inventory that we gather. So first off, Jamf gathers a lot of detailed information. We can see the IP address when it last checked in. We get a lot of great hardware information, the processor, how much RAM it has. We can see what software it's running, and we can even see what apps our end users are using. Great if we want to evaluate maybe our licensing policy for some really expensive apps. We can then take this inventory and we can create groups. We can create two types of groups, either static or smart groups. Static groups are just a set of Macs that we define as a particular group. And we can then take management actions on that. So we can apply a profile or a policy to just those particular ones. Very handy if we're, say, adding extra security controls to our finance team, or if we are deploying Adobe Photoshop to our marketing team. Very, very handy. Then I have smart groups, and they work the other way. So I say, find all of my Macs that meet a certain set of criteria here. In this case, we're looking for Macs that have 8 gigs of RAM, 80% full hard drive, and running 10.12. And it will spit out those results here for me. I can then set up automated actions here. So I can say, have a policy or profile automatically be applied to this particular smart group. Very, very handy if you are doing things such as security, where you can say, find all my Macs that don't have a password, and then automatically apply the password profile to there. That leads us, of course, to security. So we want to keep our Macs and our iOS devices secure over time. That's why you can take advantage of some of the remote commands that you can send. So on the Mac side of things, you can do things like lock it or remotely wipe it if a Mac is completely missing. On the iOS side of things, you have a couple more commands in addition to locking and wiping. You can clear the passcode. You could set the wallpaper, put it into something called lost mode where it will share the GPS coordinates back to you. Or you can force a reboot or shut down on an iOS device too. Here are some common examples of security settings that we would like to deploy, in this case here for the Mac. So here I am building a passcode policy, and I get to define all the different passcode settings that are available. Or maybe I want to restrict how system preferences behaves. I don't want my end users modifying local user accounts or modifying App Store settings or modifying the date and time on the Mac. So I'm going to restrict those particular software preference panes. I can also do things like restrict some of the consumer-based features. So maybe I don't want them accessing iCloud, or I want to remove access of the camera as well too. Going further here, I can also enforce things like gatekeeper settings. So gatekeeper will define where our end users can get apps from. In this case here, we've chosen to allow the Mac App Store and identified developers. I could make that more secure if I wanted to. And I could disallow them being able to override gatekeeper settings. Very, very handy for preventing people from downloading nefarious software. And of course, I can enforce File Vault encryption too. File Vault is the built-in encryption tool for the Mac, and I can manage all those settings inside of Jamf, including escrowing the recovery keys so that I could decrypt a Mac if need be. Also, I can do some very advanced restrictions. So I can find and kill particular processes or particular apps and choose to delete that. Very great if you want to disable things like, in this case, a BitTorrent client, or you could also prevent users from upgrading to the latest operating system here by disabling something like the install macOS High Sierra app. Then lastly here in our management stack and our workflow is the self-service app catalog. So again, self-service is an app that works both on the Mac, iOS devices that you as IT get to populate with the approved resources. So these can be, again, things like apps, printer drivers, email settings, maintenance scripts. And users don't need to be administrators to run these. So they can just one-click install some software. On the Mac side of things, I should note too that it will soon be fully customizable. So you'll be able to modify the icon, the dock icon, the banner, even rename the app altogether as well too. So to recap here, Jamf Pro really lets you do the complete lifecycle management of Apple devices. So we talked about zero-touch deployments and using DEP to do that. We talked about device configuration, both the MDM side of things for configuration profiles and the Jamf agent for doing advanced Apple management. We talked about deploying apps both from the Mac App Store and custom software. We talked about the extensive inventory that we can gather, and we can create those smart groups or static groups, the different security controls that we can lay down, and how self-service can be a really great tool for our users to get things when they need it. On the tech side of things, Jamf Pro can either be hosted in the cloud or run on-premise. If you're doing it in the cloud, we've got data centers in North America and EU, and it uses AWS as our infrastructure. If you're doing it on-prem, it's a very lightweight server. It can run on just about anything. It just needs to run Tomcat and MySQL. We support all the different Apple programs that we talked about here today too. Again, DEP for Zero Touch, VPP for Volume Purchase Program, Apple Push Notification Service. And we didn't talk about this one, but if you're a school, we do support Apple School Manager as well. And we've got a lot of great third-party integrations as well too. So if you're using directory services, you can bind your Macs to AD, and you can use AD groups and users for scoping. We integrate with your single sign-on provider, so anyone that is using SAML to log into self-service. We support integrations with Microsoft System Center and Intune as well too, so you can actually share your inventory data from Jamf into SCCM or into Intune. We support the different things that Cisco's doing with Cisco ICE and their Fastlane. We've got some great integrations with ServiceNow, and we've got a full API too. Some next steps for you. Contact us to get started. Check out jamf.com. Chat with us online. Send us an email. We'd love to chat with you about what Jamf could look like in your specific environment. We've got a lot of great back catalog webinars that you can browse through to learn more on different topics. And we've got a wonderful community. Check out Jamf Nation, 50,000 members strong, where they are sharing best tips and tricks for managing Apple devices. That, of course, expands far beyond just our product. Highly recommend checking it out. So with that, I want to thank everyone. Have a great day, and thank you.